All right, welcome everyone to our webinar today titled AI is Eating Software Testing. And I don't know if everyone knows where this comes from. It comes from Mark Andreessen, where he said back in 2011, I believe, that software is eating the world. And um, after that, mobile phones ate the world. And now we're here in a new age of AI is eating the world and even software testing. So that's the title of our webinar today. When we thought about the title for the webinar, we realized that this was kind of a bold statement, but I think it's a statement that needs to be made. I think that we thought through this very carefully and have really been looking at AI for a long time, and this is what we've come down to. Um, Jason and I this next picture of Jason and I was at a bar in Portland last year, right?
Uh, we can't reveal the exact date and time.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah. So you'll see that this was made by AI. Does anybody see what's wrong with the picture? Because there are some, as everyone knows, there's some contextual things that AI misses.
Yeah, the
And
guy on the left looks far more handsome than in real life.
uh-huh. Yeah, my wife said that I look like I'm in my 30s there, and I'm 34 now, so um but there are some things in there that are definitely off. And if anyone wants to write in and tell us what they find off in this AI picture, you get some extra bonus points. And I'll send you a homemade loaf of bread if you're in the United States.
Right. I need it.
Okay. So this is our fourth webinar. We've had three already before this, and you can see the titles of the first three. This is the last one, and we're kind of like basically summarizing all the first three and getting down to the things and the reasons that we think software testing is really going to change in the future and what you can do about it. Um, this slide here is really um, the same problems that we've had in software testing for the last 20 years, and I've been in software testing for about 20 years now. XBOSoft has been around for almost 2 decades, and I can add a few years onto that. Um, but it's really the same problems, bugs getting out in production. And then we started back probably about 15 years ago, we started writing test automation scripts, but then, those scripts are always breaking and they need to be maintained. And then, the folks that are developing the scripts don't know enough about the application. So they've got to work with other folks that know the application. And there's just a lot of issues in software testing that we've been working on tackling and getting faster at doing. But still, these problems are still there. And what we're going to be talking about today is hopefully, how AI can tackle some of these problems and help us out. This is a quote from Lee Iacocca, and I don't know if anybody, I'm sure most people remember the quote where he says, lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I think it's actually probably applicable to today in terms of AI too. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. But he also made this quote about old technology and new technology and when it's time to embrace the new technology. And, went on our AI journey. We started back in 2015, actually, in understanding how AI recognized objects. And that was a long time ago. And it's come a long way from then. And when I think about this quote from Lee, I think about, well, where does AI stand right now in terms of as soon as it's better, right? And the thing is that it's not a black and white answer, right? So AI is good at some things and not so good at other things. And so we as humans, people, we used to call them people, not humans, we have to be discerning about using AI and what it can be used for. And it's not a, dichotomous type of an answer. It can be used for this and not for that. It's up to us as humans or as people to decide how to use it. And that's where we should be going in terms of thinking about AI and where can we use it. This is another quote from Micah Kaufman, who is the CEO of Fiverr. And he's really basically warned all of the people in his company that they needed to understand the landscape of AI tools and master them. And so the thing is that we've been working on that for probably 6 or 7 years right now in examining the AI tools out there. And we've looked at several dozen, and a lot of them are bolt-ons, right? So bolt-ons in making existing processes quicker, right? So you've got some tools that will help you make test cases quicker. You've got some tools that can execute test cases quicker, right? And the thing is that we need to think about not only where to use AI, but also how to evaluate UI, the usage of AI. And so when we've worked with some of our existing customers in for our AI Testers.ai, a lot of them ask these same questions, and they're not the same. They're not the really appropriate questions. So, how many test cases do you generate, right? Well, that's not really the thing to think about when it comes to evaluating AI. So, I invite all of you to think about a new paradigm of how to evaluate what AI can do for your software quality. And that's really what it's about. It's about software quality and making the software better, not necessarily running test cases faster or how many test cases you generate. The next one is it's a really in your face kind of direct statement that Micah Kaufman also made. And I think, I think about this a lot too. I run XBOSoft and we are a software testing services firm, right? So, um, where our work is going to shift, and we need to think about where our work is going to shift and how we can accommodate and work with AI rather than just be afraid of it. And that really leads to the next slide in terms of what kind of jobs are going to be at risk. And I think that anything that requires dexterity is safe. And I'm not talking about my hands dexterity. I'm talking about our minds, right? So we need to really adapt and think about, you know, what AI needs to get its job done. And when I think about that, I'm thinking about, okay, it's always about input and output, right? So what are we going to feed in to the AI? And we as humans can really think deeply about that. As you know from using ChatGPT, you can use it very, very smartly, or you may have to prompt 20 times to get what you want, right? So there's that on the input side, and then there's the output side, right? You can get garbage out of ChatGPT as well. And so as we as masters of AI testing tools, we need to be experts at both of those sides and really think about how we can get better and not end up being like Blockbuster or Simon and Schuster or perhaps Nokia.
Yeah, I actually worked at Blockbuster when I
Did
was,
you?
yeah, for a little while. Uh,
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I used to be a gas
Mind
station.
rewind.
I
Yeah,
was a gas station attendant, and that was back when there was only full service. Maybe I'm dating myself, but
service. Yeah, we go next slide.
yeah, losing the old cheese. Probably nobody knows where this comes from. It comes from that book on Who Moved My Cheese, and so I think we need to just be really be aware of what's going on and really tackle and embrace AI versus just being afraid of it. I just remember back when I was in high school, I I cut my Achilles tendon in half, and I was in track, and I could have just sat there and wept about it, but I decided to swim instead, so I became a swimmer. So I'm not saying that, as a software tester that you have to do something else, but I hope that the message that people get out of today is to really embrace AI and start using it. whether or not you want to work with us and use it or just try different tools, just go for it and don't be afraid. Let's see here. Geez, I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking.
That's the sign of a good PM is not doing the work.
Yeah, right. I think, when I look at LinkedIn and I see the people that are getting laid off, I think what I see is that a lot of senior folks are getting laid off.
Wait a minute,
VPs.
Phil. Wait a minute. That's too real. People can't handle that message.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
If maybe in
Well,
the future they decide to change career options in light of AI, that's how we practice this, Phil.
okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Well, um, there's a lot of pressure. Let's be blunt about that in terms of implementing AI from the top down, from the board level, and trying to save money, save humans, whatever. And I think that if you're a VP of development or CTO and you're getting pressure to do something about AI, um, that's one of the things that Iceberg is meant to do and help and support is really being able to implement AI right away with our testing experts. Like I said before, we've been working with AI for many, many years now and evaluated, several dozen tools. And so why add people when you can work directly with us? Or, like I said before, I'm just encouraging you the listeners out there to try AI and not be afraid of it.
And if I can add, Phil, we were talking about this earlier today a little bit, is it's like it's instant on. So I think what's interesting about Iceberg QA, Phil and I were talking about that bar, talking about that bar a while ago in virtual reality. And uh we're trying to be helpful to the community in general. Like Phil and I, that's where we align a lot too. We generally want to help people and also figure out how to make that happen, how to make this transition easy for people, how to, have an answer when manager comes down and says, hey, what's your AI strategy? And so we realized like there's a lot of problems that we've gone through, which is you have to evaluate all these tools, figure out how to get the humans to work with the testers, how that integration works, and also like AI is not perfect. So how do you have people understand how to work around those issues that AI when AI messes up, when it gets it wrong, and even how to communicate with the AI, like kind of the input, the IO stuff Phil's talking about. So what we've done is we put together a team of people with AI that already know how to work together and can start like tomorrow, right? Like instant on. So you can get an instant on strategy for AI and actually value from AI without having to have the experts on staff, train them, learn the tools, and go through all the pain and stuff of integration that we've experienced. Um, but at the end of the day, like really Phil's totally right. It's just people just need to try AI, need to play with it. If it's ChatGPT, if it's whatever it is, even if it's your current vendor that's doing these little add-on things, at least try those and understand how they work and how they don't, and what their value is or value isn't. But if you need to have a story today, uh, not just that you should to be aware, like we live in a technology world, you need to be aware of where technology is going, but also organizationally, your management is coming down and saying, hey, if they haven't done so yet, they will soon. Like, what's your AI strategy? You need to have that answer. That's the biggest thing I worry about with folks. If they're leaning back or nervous or saying, hey, I'll think about that next quarter, like it's a dangerous spot to be in. And we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, Phil. I just get worked up.
Yeah, so what we did was we developed what we call a four-shot testing flow, which has various and different levels of frequency depending on your development cycle, as well as different levels of human intervention where we can support you depending on, the time and resources that you have in your company, the understanding that you have to run AI, as well as the understanding to be able to understand the results and evaluate the results. So depending on what level of support you need. You can work with us for different levels of what we call human intervention, right? And value added. Did you have anything else on this, Jason?
I was just gonna say this is optimized for what AI is good at and efficient at, and what humans or people, Phil likes to call them humans. I think they're actually people, that the people are good at, right? And so how do you There's been a struggle with automation of the past. We've really not mastered that very well. But with AI, it's far more obvious. But you have to integrate those in an effective way. If you have the AI doing things that only humans are good at, or vice versa, it kind of turns into a mess and disaster of inefficiency. Um, but this is there's some also there's some blogs online about this, or you can ping me or Phil if you want more information. But we go through like what these things are. We've worked together, talked about it, thought through it, and this is like the kind of outline of how to integrate humans and AI. And so yeah, we detailed like each step in a separate blog post if you want to implement it yourself, or just also read and understand what's going on.
I think I think the important thing also is what we've done is been able to configure and configure the services and product so that it can integrate with your existing stuff and the investments that you have. So a lot of folks have investments, huge investments in, hundreds or even thousands of Selenium scripts, and we can integrate with that, as well as having test cases in either TestRail, Jira, and so on. And we can also work and integrate with those different test management systems. So that's important too. It's not something that um, you have to think about as something totally new. We can integrate with your existing tool sets.
Yeah, and if I can, this is like a super strong and important point. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and actually Bear and I were, and they have legacy investments they have a bunch of manual testers and test scripts. Some of those can be imported to testers or to the AI and executed for you. And the testing experts at Iceberg can just do that migration for you. They can also come up with new tests for manual testing, but also there's a many ways it can be integrated with existing test automation. Um, but that also sounds like a lot of work. One of the things that folks are doing now is also just because the AI is super easy to put into CI/CD, or to just have some external folks like Iceberg run independently, is they add that, and then you get free bugs out of it and you get extra coverage. And it may overlap what you do today, but guess what? The funny thing is it's so efficient, it doesn't matter. Like if the AI dupes something that you've already written, okay, we now have two scripts that run the same thing, and one of them is going to be more resilient over time, but it doesn't really matter. You don't need to really worry about that stuff. It's just additive, frankly. More free bugs for human testers, more coverage for folks focused on automation. Cool. So now Phil is going to let me talk a little bit. Thanks, Phil. I just wanted to show this view. This is one that I think should be very compelling to people in the testing world and automation world. In fact, I'll tell you, I've had like two, I'll call them luminaries in the testing space. Or an unplanned, this is not in the presentation notes, speaker notes. Um, I've talked with two people, I won't name them. I'll ask if I can name them later, but they've come to me and they say, hey, I just saw your testing bots. And they're like, what the heck are you doing? This is crazy. Like this is like I didn't even expect this. And what they say is they're worried firstly, because they're like, but they've avoided looking at it for a long time because they didn't want to know that an AI could actually do these things, and they didn't want to know that paired with a human expert, they can just go quickly. The AI does all this work, and they go, okay, good bug, bad bug, or good automation or bad automation, and that takes like seconds versus like hours and days to build automation or manual regression tests. So, but the key thing is they were nervous about looking at it, and they're like, oh wow, it does a lot of stuff. And then they have the conversation like we're having now about how they're complementary. They can't do everything. They can do a lot, and they need expert supervision today. There's plenty of room for people and expert testers that are willing to embrace AI. But you really want to make sure you're not caught on the side of doing things that are being done in here, because that means an AI can do it. And these are autonomous, to be very clear too. These are things, there's no human involved initialization of these tests. They look at the page, generate tests, execute them, and report on them. But yeah, sometimes testers worry about hallucination stuff. Absolutely, they hallucinate sometimes. Absolutely, they get stuck in loops sometimes. But so do people. I know a few of them, including myself. But this is happening. This is real today. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next month or next year. It's already happening today. And really, a lot of testing experts go like, a lot of people I think in the world too just don't want to know, but the reality is here, and I'll make sure people see it. And it's good context for this, which is kind of how I think uh, this will evolve. This will roll out over time. So today, majority is either manual or test automation. Obviously, that's what happens in our space. And the ratio, I looked it up actually. All these things, thought through it more deeply than this graphic makes it look. But the majority of it's actually manual today. And automation, we know always, the vast majority of automation products have marginal, sometimes negative ROI, frankly. But we still do it because there's advantages in speed and some efficiencies and repeatability. But what's going to happen soon and come right out of the block is that screen you just saw a second ago, which is the green stuff is the autonomous AI. So this is where the AI just goes out and just does a bunch of things. It creates a bunch of coverage, finds bugs, and a lot of times you can run it against production websites and you find bugs that escaped. So by definition, there are things that whatever we're spending on and whatever testing, planning, and activities we have today, we're missing them because they're getting escaped out into production. But there's going to be a dramatic and quick increase in the amount of autonomous AI, and it will soon, very soon, I think, equate the total amount of coverage delivered and bugs found will equal very soon be equal to what we find from the people, Phil, not the humans, the people. Um, and you also see it constricts a little because people will be focusing a little more time, a little more energy, a little more money on that autonomous AI. So they'll quit hiring as many. The hiring will slow down. We've talked about this. It's already happening. We know that it's all over LinkedIn. But the hiring is slowing down in anticipation of this happening. And then very soon after, remember, this is an exponential process, but people, not humans, but people just do not understand exponential. So this is a mild version, but what will happen is that green bar will dramatically increase because it happens 100 times faster and 100 times less expensive. It can deliver that coverage that the AI is good at, not all the stuff. And then humans, on this next bar, the orange and red are the humans there, and the people, they will be focusing not on the basics, like can you just log in? Can you just do a basic search and stuff like that? They'll be doing the more complex things, like Phil and I talk about often is, if you've got like a giant accounting app with a giant spreadsheet looking UI that any text can be entered at any moment, and you don't know what the back end business rules are and all that stuff. That's where automation comes in, where people come in and their intelligence comes in. But when it comes into just logging in, creating an account, doing a quick search, all that kind of stuff, which is what most automation is today, will be eaten as Phil says by AI. And there's this coolest, most interesting part of this whole thing is this purple segment. The purple is the amount of testers that are reviewing the AI. So there'll be a significant amount of people that transition from these red and orange pills to being the AI reviewers. And that means that, but they have to be great testers, by the way. That's why Phil and I, that's why I partner with Phil is he's got tons of experience on his team. They've been there a long time. They've seen about everything on the planet and a lot of really hard testing problems. But you need someone like that because they have to be smarter than than the AI, and smarter than any of the other tests that may have been written and understand the tests and coverage provided and delivered by the people. And so they kind of have to be the super testers there to be able to review everything in context and even identify what's missing. But that's the new growth area in software testing. Uh,
Yeah, let me add something, Jason. A question came in about, should we utilize AI instead of adding headcount, and how does that kind of work in our company at XBOSoft, where we provide testing services, right? And you touched on it just there was that our average tenure in the company is over 8 years. So our guys and gals are expert testers, and so we are perfectly positioned as a company to be able to run the AI, right? So that means being able to do the input correctly to get the most and optimize the AI, as well as being able to evaluate the output. And so we have that experience to be able to do that. And so, a newbie, some person with 1 year experience or 2 years, even 3 years, is not going to have that level of expertise to be able to evaluate the results coming out, as well as put the correct prompts in to get the AI to do what you want it to do.
Right. And I'll add that's part of I was gonna say the love hate, but there's no hate. It's when I first started with Phil and Phil's team, they like point out all the things it can't do and where it did things wrong. I'm still like, look at all the magic it can do, right? Frankly, I'm like, look at all these cool things, and it does it autonomously and everything. But they're like, yeah, but what about this and what about that and all these things? And I'm like, those are true. They're very, very true. And that's why, people are there, but particularly like Phil says, they need to be, it's the experienced people. It's if, these like a large vendor or something that has, just a lot of churn and people coming in that are noobs or just do very basic testing, they're not going to be capable of handling, and we know this from experience, of reviewing the AI's work and correcting it and double checking it. So that's where a lot of this, the reduction in the orange and yellow areas are, the manual automation powered by people. It's going to be the noobs and the less experienced folks. And that's again why I'm collaborating deeply with Phil as his team's super, super experienced. And Phil is himself. And Phil doesn't like to talk about himself, but he runs a conference in the Northwest. I think again on the old theme, but maybe the oldest software testing conference in the world. But it also tries to be one of the more formal ones and more academic like ones. And so, but he's seen everything, like every pitch, every good idea, every bad idea, and the evolution of it over time. So he brings all that, he and his team bring all that context into how do we blend the humans and machines. So I highly recommend, follow Iceberg or sign up work with us. But like rather than relearning it yourself under pressure and under the microscope of management, engage us and figure out and follow what we do so you don't have to relearn all these things. So this is an interesting thing. Phil kind of hinted at it earlier, but what's I realized, so what's kind of counterintuitive. What people thought would happen is that, oh, AI can do all the, even at this point in this presentation, if you just haven't seen anything else, you might think this is that, oh, all the people that are doing the basic testing work day to day, manually or scripting, they're under threat by AI and AI is going to eat their jobs. The funny thing is, well, maybe not, it's funny. It's not funny. The surprising thing is that it's actually the testing leadership, so test managers and directors and stuff like that, that are under the most pressure right now. Because what's happening is management's coming down, the director of engineering or VP of engineering or CTO, and they're coming to the test leadership and saying, what's our AI story, right? And the managers and these other directors of engineering and stuff have seen online, they've seen these presentations, they've seen there's a bunch of tools that are doing AI stuff. And you can see in the last presentation we did, I shared some of what uh, what AI is doing even in the development tools. So the development tools themselves are starting to do some basic kind of testing and quality checks and stuff work inside of the developer environment. So they can just sit in their little IDE, in their little cubicle, in their antisocial world and not communicate with people, but get testing value, right, from the AI without the testing team. We'll get that in a second. But what happens is when the management comes down and says, what's the AI story? If people are not proactively aggressive about adopting AI, they're being removed, is a polite way, I guess, put it. But and the weird thing is they're not even really going down level in the testing orgs and promoting people up, right? You don't take the test lead that's even maybe the most AI person. That kind of happens sometimes. Say, hey, you're the test manager now. What they're doing is they're taking people from ops, and this is really what's happening on the ground. And you can see it in LinkedIn if you did some queries, but they're moving the test leadership out very quickly, and because they have sunk costs and biases, right? They like the way things are today. They don't really want change. They're curious about AI, but they're not moving fast enough. So, but ops and the dev teams have people that are AI first, using AI generation code generation tools, IDEs, different services, different agents. They're using building their own custom stuff, fine-tuning models. They're going, hey, you know what? We're just going to take one of our engineers from the ops team that's been AI first and AI focused, and I don't care if he knows about testing, but I want that person put in charge of testing to make sure that it's AI first, because that's their priority right now. So this is happening, and this is even happening to people that have been experimenting, doing like, looking at different tools for 3-4 months and evaluating them with a formal process, but it's too slow. So that's actually just, again, I'm trying to share with the world what I'm seeing and talking to people, what's really happening on the ground. Is those are the people that are most kind of being eaten right now, is upper management and test leadership. That's the starting first. And then those people will come in and then evaluate the org and processes and make them AI first without any sunk costs or ego involved. Um, because it's so obvious to management, real or not, if whether people want to believe it or not, that AI should be able to do a fair amount of the software testing work far like more efficiently and faster. But they also know they need people. They won't reduce the risk by, I mean, they don't want to increase risk by saying it's all AI. They definitely need people to review the AI and manage it and do the hard things that AI can't do. But if people aren't open to engaging with AI and moving quickly, it's getting to be they're being eaten by AI. So this is like a kind of another forward-looking loop of where we're going is in general is that there's AI coding agents. We all know that the developers are now coding with AI. Google, it changes every time we do a webinar. I think the first webinar in this series we mentioned that Google was claimed that 25% of code was from AI, right? Generated by AI. I saw something earlier this week, and it's so not interesting. I didn't even read the whole article because I'm like, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. But AI is now doing 50% of Google's coding today. But like you realize that's doubled from like just a couple months ago. These are exponential trends, and soon it will be like 2000%. That was a bad joke. But it will exponentially reach 100% of code is done by AI or with AI. But the same thing happens. Testing is always behind the times. We're always slower. We're always laggards. It just is a reality. We're also very skeptical, so we're later adopters and stuff like that. But AI testing agents are here. We've seen them actually doing some testing here, and they will work with the AI. So the AIs will talk to each other. The AI will say, well, here's some code. And the AI testing agents will go like, oh, let me test those for you. And it does some testing. Can't do everything, but you know what? It can do a lot. It can do the logins. It can do searches. It can look for, for script errors, all sorts of stuff. But those two entities will work together. Those two AIs will work together. And then only after there's a break, if there's new functionality you didn't think about, or it can't implement, or if there's bugs that it can't describe well enough for the AI to fix, or it's ready for the humans to come in and do the last 20% of the more difficult, interesting testing work by testing experts. That's when humans come in. So that's happening this year. The AIs are getting connected, and so it's like I can think of some dating analogies, but it's um, the AI agents are getting together whether we like it or not, and they're working together. The question is, how do you fit into that? How do you not just be AI first, but how do you make sure that you're still relevant in this loop? So, and this kind of leads to this last slide. Like, if there's, I think the main point, like Phil and I said, is actually just try AI. If you're not using AI today, try it. And if you are using AI, I guarantee you're not using it enough. And it's useful for all sorts of different tasks. The one quick advice I would give people is just try it, maybe even for a day of your life or whatever at work. But before you start any email, before you start any writing a test case, before you start thinking about a test plan, before you do anything, start it with AI. Start in ChatGPT and ask it to help you with that task. And also ask it like, what more context do you need from me, right? But work with AI and understand what it can and can't be useful for. People just still are too much just dabbling here or there. But start all your tasks with AI and see how that goes. But the real question we're going to be facing here in the latter half of 2025 is that these AI testing agents, and you can start to see them in the coding agents that are out there today, like Visual Code and Cursor and let me say Windsurf, whatever that is right now. But all of those tools are starting to add testing to them. And so inside of basic testing, not just unit tests, they're starting to try to click things. The AI is trying to do that and run the application and test it. So you need to not get ahead of that, but you need to do it before your developers do. This is the one thing I implore people to do. This is the high order bit. It doesn't matter what AI you're using or whatever the political context but the developers are going to be trying to use AI to do their testing, regardless of what you think about it. And so you need to make sure that you're probably doing it before they do, so they don't have to worry about it. But if you are more difficult as a testing team and organization than it is for the developer to click some buttons in an IDE in the code, in the code development environment, it's going to be it's not going to be great for testers. So highly recommend people get up ahead of the curve, So the developer doesn't have to worry about the testing. But if you don't do that, they will pick it up and they will be doing that 80% of testing and trying to do a lot of that on their own. They won't like it, but it needs to be, but if it's less friction than dealing with the testing team, they'll do it and manage it. So that's the real, I think the real risk and where the shark is that's eating these software testers. That's the AI shark. It's the one coming up through the developer's IDE environment. It's not just politics or when people decide to use it across the organization. So yeah, that's there's one slide for me that you remember from today. I think this is the key one. Everything else is details.
Okay, so there was a question that came in about Iceberg QA, and Iceberg QA is a partnership between XBOSoft and Testers.ai, and I just wanted to make a note here that, we evaluated many, many tools that use AI, and we wanted an AI first tool. And, Jason's tool at Testers.ai is probably the only one that we found that worked. And um, so that's why we chose Jason, not to mention that, he's a great guy and I've known him for a long time. Um, I don't know how he chose us to work with as a
Oh, I'm going to
partner.
interrupt you then, Phil.
What's
Just
that?
because this is a love fest.
Yeah,
So by
yeah.
the way, we both dated a lot of people. I think what's the magic number? You're supposed to date like 19 people before you marry, and then any more than that is a waste of time. And there's like some stat on that. Anyway, some game theory thing. Um, we both have probably talked to about 19 different people. And like I was talking with Phil a couple days ago about this, after a long road trip and thinking through things too. Um, I actually initially told Phil to bug off, if you remember, in the fall, politely, because I was already working with a couple other people and I was overwhelmed, right? But then, Phil was persistent and curious. Um, and I knew all these things about him. Like his team's super experienced. He's seen everything almost to a fault. He's seen and seen every problem and every success in the industry over the last 20 years. And in a weird way, I'll be very frank or vulnerable. I was worried about that because I'm like, hey, these little AI agents, these little tiny baby penguins, they can start to work and it's pretty amazing. They can do anything. And I knew that Phil and his team could just rip them apart in like 5 minutes, right? And I'm focused on like, hey, there's this birth of this new little cool thing that will be is growing exponentially valuable, but it's still early. And this is last year. But I've spent a lot of time talking to other testing teams and vendors and leaders like Phil that like across, and by the way, companies of 100,000 people, billion-dollar companies, mid-sized companies, small vendors, like all across this landscape. And Phil and Phil's team is the one that has been the most um, able. Like I think it was Einstein. There's a quote or something that, and like true intelligence is maintaining two like conflicting ideas in your head simultaneously. And Phil's able to do that. He's able to straddle both the worlds of where things are going and the value and all stuff of AI, but also keep grounded in what's very practical and in useful and what the people are good at, and to be able to blend them, right, with no ego involved. He's just looking for the solution and finding the right answer. So that's why I've chosen to work so much and so closely with Phil and his team, and it's been great. But that's the real reason I haven't shared that publicly yet. And I'm working less with other people over time because this is just it's a great day. And he's a hugger. He's really a hugger, and I like that a lot. And and he'll wake up in the middle of the night to chat on a video call and wake up super early in the morning. So that's why we're working together, and it's not accidental. It's not. It wasn't even deliberate or planned very well. But that's just the way things have evolved because of XBOSoft and particularly um, Phil's mindset to be able to keep all those ideas coherent and put them together. And that's what I really recommend people work with Phil and generally, specifically Iceberg, but really with Phil, because Phil has that context. And I know because I've talked to a lot of people in the space that they don't get it. They often see, I'm talking too long, but this is important. I think, Phil, we're talking about this the other day. Other folks are usually very Boolean, right? They think they either be AI first or do what they're doing today. And hunker down and hide and just wait for the AI to destroy them later, and hopefully it misses them, or dive into AI and take too much risk and move too fast. But Phil's kind of got blended that, and he's not just academically understanding it. He runs a business, and he has he has for 20 years. So he sees the reality of this both with clients and with from the business side on the testing services and vendor and consulting side. So so he's made testers a lot better. I basically, and last, I'll add one more thing. Phil's team has made me work more hours and with more stress and more productivity than I have ever had in my career. Over the last 4 months, it's been exhausting and refreshing, and really accelerated Testers AI and the robustness of the AI. So I really appreciate Phil and his team for doing that. I almost got choked up. No,
Yep.
but
One
I
more
really appreciate that.
one
Yeah.
more thing. I know that there's a lot of naysayers and criticizers of AI, and I think that that's actually great because what those folks have pointed out, AI doesn't do this well, or it can't do this, or can't do that. That's fantastic because that's where the people come in, right?
Yeah, I
I
don't know
mean,
why they're completely have a negative attitude. It's like,
yeah.
congratulations, yes,
Yeah, I
you're
mean, you have
fine.
just pointed out exactly why we need people to do stuff to run the AI and also take advantage of what the AI can do. So, if you're a critiquer of AI or you're a naysayer, this AI is no good, that's fantastic because you've actually pinpointed, what the humans and the people are still need.
I would say as long as it's grounded in reality. The thing that your team did was rapidly, aggressively, very aggressively test the crap out of it.
Mhm.
And like looking at metrics and like and suggesting features and all sorts of things. So, but they were grounded in the reality of what the AI they actually experienced it, right? Which is what you were saying earlier, Phil. People need to try this stuff and then understand how they fit in relation to it. My problem is a lot of people are QA and QA are very naysayers or skeptical because they think that that makes them a great tester, and I don't think it does. I think that's one hat you need to wear, but uh, but is but the thing is that you need to, while there's people talking about it have never actually used it. Like there's even people that claim they've used my tool before, like literally at conferences, never touched it. I know because I know them and I run the thing. But really what matters is people that are grounded in teams that are grounded in all that experience, actually engage the AI and then understand how to integrate those two. And that's where we've seen a lot of progress the last 4 months working together and collaborating. And Iceberg is the way to bring it to market to say, hey, if you want to benefit from AI immediately, and with no, without all the things we talked about, like training your team, learning AI, trying different tools, doing all different tool evaluations and all that kind of stuff, and making sure you have the expert testers and experts know how to use the AI and how to review it and synthesize it all together into a single service. Like the easiest thing is just go to Iceberg QA and sign up, and you can get people to do it for you. And like Phil and I were saying too earlier, right for the call, maybe a little too open kimono, is that like I was thinking if I was smart, I would just use Iceberg QA at minimum, at least to understand, like learn what these guys have learned by trying to merge the machines and AI together while I reconfigure my own internal large team too. But anyway, it's legit to be skeptical and negative naysayer, but also if you look across the internet, even in just the pure developer world or in AI in general, almost all those little strawberry problems that people bring up, like you can't count the letters, number of R's in strawberry, or you can't do some math problem, those mostly have been solved, and even then, it does 99% of everything else okay. So maybe use it for that. Um, my car doesn't fly very well, by the way, and my calculator can't write a blog post on LinkedIn for me, but I don't complain about it. Uh, but anyway, that's an example of how, there's the realism of what AI is good at, what humans are good at, people are good at, and how do you blend them to be effective and efficient.
Okay, well, this is the last webinar for the summer, the fourth one out of four. I think that if anything, I'd just like to repeat the message that Jason just discussed, which was, just try it and master it. Download the testers from the testers.ai website. That I think there's I think there was still a free version. I
There's
can't
a yeah free 30-day trial if you want to play
remember
with
the trial
yourself.
version. Just try
But
it.
you
See
can't
what
call
you
me
can do.
for free.
Yeah, you can't call
I've got
them,
things
right?
to do. I got YouTube
So,
and Netflix to watch.
yeah. And dive in. Don't be a Nokia or a Borders Books. Dive in and if you need help, we're here. You'll get a recording as for all the people that attended as well as those that didn't attend. And have a good summer. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Cheers. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Bear, for organizing everything, getting it all together. It was smooth, super smooth.